Greetings, students of the Force, and welcome back to the archives. Revan is one of the most widely praised and acknowledged characters in Legends continuity of Star Wars lore. His epic story has granted him a place among the most recognized and powerful characters in all of Star Wars, right alongside the likes of Anakin Skywalker. From light to dark and then back again, the life of Revan is one filled with triumph, tragedy, and above all, sacrifice. However, these sacrifices don't come without reward, and with Revan having experienced both sides of the Force, and what both sides have to offer, he buffed out an incredibly impressive resume with a vast array of extremely powerful Force abilities, some of the most powerful, again, in all of the lore. So today, my friends, we are going to be taking a look at those abilities and seeing just how powerful Revan truly was, taking a look at his greatest Force feats. Before we get started, I just wanted to say really quick that our channel is always expanding and looking for new ways to bring you all of the Star Wars content that you love, and we thank you so much for your continued viewership and support. So without further ado, let us begin. Starting off, I think one of Revan's most underrated Force powers comes with his insane natural ability of all things psychokinetic. This was one of the things he was most gifted at above all of his other abilities, and it indeed served him very well. Revan and Cal Kestis both share the ability of psychometry, which is to sense echoes in the Force by touching an object. Revan, though, usually doesn't need to even touch an object and can sense the past, present, and future of a place, and even people that he meets. His sight in the Force transcends time itself, and it comes to him almost easily. So easily, in fact, that his sight was piercing through the veil of amnesia that was imposed upon his mind by the Jedi Council members. Revan, as a Jedi, was able to have dreams of his old life and see visions of star maps and of the Starforge itself. Speaking of this as well, Revan's mind was able to resist quite a bit, including the mind control of Darth Vitiate himself. Vitiate at the time had already become extremely powerful by absorbing the life and power of over 8,000 Sith Lords. Vitiate's levels of mental domination were so powerful that he could easily enslave anyone he wished, and as many as he liked. He did so with Revan and Malak, sending them to attack the Republic. However, once Revan left, he was able to break from the Sith Emperor's spell and take his mind back, although the mind was now altered to align to the dark side. Despite this, Revan's mental fortitude would extend into the time of his suspension in stasis, when he was captured and tortured for 300 years by the Sith Empire and Vitiate. He could have easily slipped into madness during this time, but he held true and even managed to split the dark half away from his lighter self. Speaking of Darth Revan though, we did get to see an insane amount of power from him during his tenure as a Sith Lord, particularly in the realm of telekinesis. One of the most difficult and mentally taxing ways to use this ability was by wielding one's lightsaber with it. Revan proved to be able to do this with 2 lightsabers, fighting his enemy on Dromund Kaas by wielding them away from him at the same time. Now, whilst being able to hurl large objects isn't something new to Force wielders, Revan was able to do it with barely any difficulty at all, having the power to fling massive objects of immense weight as if he were tossing small stones. Keeping in mind that even for seasoned Force wielders, telekinesis does still require a ton of focus. Yoda's teachings were indeed true when he said that the size didn't matter in the realm of the mindscape. However, the heavier the object in any way, the more one had to increase their focus upon it in order to wield it with telekinesis. And after all of this, it would still leave a Force wielder drained. We can see Yoda being somewhat fatigued after lifting Luke's X-Wing out of the swamp. Not to mention, even the great Starkiller was barely able to stand up after pulling a Star Destroyer to the ground, which he was almost incapable of doing until he put all of his focus and power into doing so. But going back to Revan, he was able to destroy a large archway with just a pulse of the Force from him, and he was able to use the power of Force Maelstrom, which causes a whirlwind of the Force to pick up objects and hurl them at an opponent. Another feat of telekinesis he used was a highly advanced form of Force Choke, a Sith exclusive technique known as Force Rend. This was the ability to lift a being into the air and then use the Force to contort and twist their body in unnatural manners, tearing limb from socket and wrenching spines and necks from their place. Revan took this a step further by using the Force to choke his literal enemy's organs. You heard me right, he would squeeze all of their organs inside their bodies until death. There are many ways one can be killed by the Force, but in my opinion, this is one of the more gruesome methods. Of course, it would be a crime not to mention Revan's proficiency with Force Lightning as well. Revan was among those who could use the Force ability known as a Force Storm, the most advanced form of Force Lightning. He also learned how to use Force lightning defensively, mastering the elusive method of lightning shield and using it to counter both physical as well as force-based attacks. Speaking of defense, Revan was extraordinarily strong with Terminus, taking it far beyond and literally gaining the power to conduct energy through his body and redirect it as he pleased. Revan used this to great effect by redirecting the lightning of Darth Revan and quite literally incinerating her with her own Force lightning, literally turning her to ash. No ritualistic burning needed. She became a black stain on the floor from her own Force storm. We have times where we do indeed like to appreciate the Force for the life-giving energy that it is though. But then again, there are times when we view characters such as Grandmaster Luke Skywalker, Revan, and Starkiller, where we see the full capabilities of the Force and what they are really capable of. And it is hard to compare that feeling of power. It really is no wonder why so many fall into the lure of the dark side. The powers of the Sith are absolutely legendary, and those born with the prospect to wield ultimate power like this truly deserve to be paid attention to. My question is, what would it be like if Revan were alive during the Galactic Civil War, leading the Rebel Alliance with his brilliant tactical mind, and then going off to face Darth Sidious alone? And then, just imagine a fleet battle between Revan and Grand Admiral Thrawn. While this video was mainly based around the many Force feats of Darth Revan, he also was tactically brilliant with the lightsaber, and above all, transcended the very Force itself, becoming a Force ghost, which is another incredibly powerful feat, especially for an individual that spent so long in the realm and allure of the dark side. Darth Revan was nearly perfect. In fact, he had many masters that believed he may have in fact been the chosen one, although of course this is incorrect. However, Kreia, and later Darth Traya, held Revan in the highest esteem, despite being the master to some of the most powerful Sith Lords of all time, including Nihilus and Darth Sion. Still though, Traya held Revan in such high regard that she considered him the purest avatar of the light as well as the dark, an extremely learned individual that would inspire many Sith and Jedi to come. A widely loved and feared individual, the true pioneer of the Sith rule of two, the inspirer of Sidious and Bane, and it makes me wonder what it would have truly been like if someone like Revan were ever to come into conflict with Vader or Luke Skywalker. Can we only imagine the godlike potential that Revan could have achieved had he lived longer and not been tortured by Vitiate? But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on some of the greatest Force feats of Darth Revan? What do you think Revan could have achieved if he had lived his life without being interrupted? And what are your thoughts on the pioneer of the light and the dark side as well? Also, are there other characters whose power and Force feats you would like to see analyzed in the future? Again, my friends, may the Force be with you, and I hope that you have a great day.